Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point. A crisis is averted for now. That's what residents of a homeless encampment are saying after the city of Sacramento canceled a so-called sweep that was expected today. And we've been following this story as advocates begged city council members at their meeting last night not to clear the encampment. And it worked. But in tonight's main point, Becca Habegger shows us why the community is worried that their displacement has now only been delayed.
The dozens of people living at this encampment near the intersection of Colfax Street and Arden Way, North Sacramento, call it Camp Resolution. It's an unsanctioned, unofficial community, which the city says constitutes trespassing, calling it an illegal occupation of city property. But it is located on one of the properties the city of Sacramento had planned on turning into a homeless shelter, a plan that never panned out.
They just need to get it together and come together with a good plan, one that's going to work.
Tammy Myler lives in Camp Resolution along with Desiree Pryor.
We help each other all the way through.
They say the people living here united their voices and successfully avoided a clearing of this encampment, but they know a sweep could come soon.
There's got to be compromise.
Right, because we can't go to the sidewalks no more because we can't camp there. We can't go here because we can't camp there.
They want to stay here, a site that was originally set to become a safe place for them.
No follow through on their end. To me, it's negligence.
In its 2021 comprehensive siting plan to address homelessness, the city of Sacramento said it wanted to turn this exact site into a tiny home community to house up to 75 people. But an environmental study showed soil contamination at the site could hurt people camping on the ground there. So they changed the plan to just allow people living in their vehicles. But once council members learned the site would only accommodate 30 to 50 vehicles, depending on size, they decided to cut their losses, as Councilmember Sean Laloe explained.
So we just didn't see that as a big move, considering how much space it is. So that's why we had to kind of shut this, mark it off from that list and try to find other locations.
But earlier this fall, dozens of people moved in anyway, naming the space Camp Resolution. And now they don't want to leave, saying it's a safe and supportive place, especially for the women living here. And with several deaths of unhoused individuals in recent years due to exposure to the elements, they say safety is more important than ever.
Is it going to take somebody to die out here again for them to actually take a look and see what they're doing to us?
Camp Resolution is in Laloe's district. He made a promise at Tuesday night's council meeting to visit the camp the next day, and ABC 10 was there as he made good on that. He said the city is working on alternatives, but made clear city leaders have moved on from developing this particular location.
This is not going to be the site because of the danger that we've been told about. But does that mean that we got to just sit back and say, well, we tried our best and we failed and oh well? No, we're dealing with human beings, so we have to find a solution.
The city says they've offered services to campers here multiple times, including spaces at the Miller Park Safe Ground and Safe Parking and the Auburn Boulevard Outreach and Engagement Center. But many people living here don't want to go.
Becca Habegger joins me now. And Becca, this city has since changed its course, moving away from that comprehensive sitting plan of 2021.
Yeah, right. Back in April, city staff basically told council members why some of the original sites in that comprehensive plan were what they call infeasible. Instead, they chose to focus efforts on a work plan consisting of 8 specific sites, some of which were in that comprehensive siting plan, but others that had been identified since that plan was first published. That work plan includes the Miller Park Safe Parking and Safe Ground site just down the street from where we are here at ABC 10, the Auburn Boulevard Outreach and Engagement Center, and the North 5th Street Shelter. All of those are now operational or expanded. Projects in progress include Joshua's House and the Jobs Corps site. Remember, ultimately, across Sacramento County, there are more than 9,000 people experiencing homelessness on any given night. The city of Sacramento currently has 1,150 emergency shelter and some respite spaces, some beds, but more work is needed. That is the one thing nobody can disagree on. Alex.
That's exactly right, Becca. Thank you so much. And just weeks ago, Governor Newsom paused more than $1 billion of funding allocated for cities and counties to combat homelessness, saying that they weren't coming up with solutions that were aggressive enough. So he's now meeting with leaders from across the state this Friday to figure out how to move forward. And it's not just California searching for solutions. Other cities all along the West Coast are struggling with homelessness too. And just last week, voters in Portland, Oregon approved a dramatic overhaul of how the city's government is structured. And they've given city leaders a timeline to carry out the changes too. Essentially, the city increased the number of city council members from 5 to 12, and they'll be elected by district instead of at large. And this is just one of the changes that voters in Portland hope will give leaders more ownership over the city and its aid in efforting to find solutions to homelessness. All right, the end of the year is approaching, and when it comes to our economy, things are they're not looking that great. So after the break, we're hearing how you feel about going into the holidays and what the state of California also has in store. Okay, Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and so are those expensive family and Friendsgiving dinners. And in this economy, our Thanksgiving meals are set to be more pricey than ever. So how's that affecting your spending habits this time around? Do you plan on changing anything? I went to Rancho San Miguel Market in Oak Park today to see if any of you have different plans in store. And from what I heard, not so much.
I attempted to change my shopping habits, but my family likes all the ingredients pretty much the same every year. So I couldn't cut back with it cheaper in any of the products.
Just checking the prices that have gone really high, and I was like, little by little, it adds up.
Try not to change too much but we definitely watch our budget.
Now, the state of California, on the other hand, might need to reassess its spending habits. Just 6 months ago, Governor Newsom announced a historic $97 billion surplus in the state budget. But things are not looking so great heading into 2023. Today, the Independent Legislative Analyst Office announced that California is facing a budget deficit of $25 billion next year. They say this is the worst outlook the state has had since the Great Recession. And with the threat of a recession on the horizon, that number could get worse.
Revenues are down around $41 billion in the budget window. If we had a recession, you could add another $30 to $50 billion in revenue loss relative to that.
So you may be asking, why don't we just use the surplus to make up the difference? Well, that money is already accounted for in a one-time spending plan, such as funding for homeless encampment cleanups. And so the Legislative Analyst Office suggests that the state should hold off from sending some of that one-time money. And one question I have is, what does this mean for people's day-to-day lives? During the Great Recession, the state did things like furloughs. Offices were closed the first and third Fridays just to help save cash. All right, and speaking of saving some cash, if shopping local is totally your thing, pay attention to this because the city of Sacramento is giving you money to help keep your dollars local this holiday season. It is all part of the Shop 916 gift card program. You can get up to $50 in bonus gift cards when you buy a gift card that can be used at participating small businesses. You'll get a $10 gift card bonus when you buy a $25 gift card, $25 bonus when you get a $50 gift card, and then a $50 bonus gift card when you get a $100 gift card. So the offer runs until February 15th, and bonus cards must be spent by February 28th and can be used by nearly 100 businesses in Sacramento. To purchase gift cards or enter your business into the program, visit shop916local.com. We have a link at abc10.com/to-the-point. And violence, discrimination against transgender people. It's not something often talked about until now. We'll explain and also hear one Sacramentan's story after the break. People and organizations across the country are participating in Transgender Awareness Week, and it was created to help address issues that members of the community face. And some of those alarming challenges include anti-trans hate, violence, and discrimination at every turn. Our lead race and culture reporter, Candace Redd, is sharing one Sacramentan's story.
I came out in 2019.
Lauren Polito, who lives in Sacramento, says he identifies as a trans masculine person.
After that, just tried to find community as much as I could.
A trans masculine person typically refers to someone who was assigned female at birth but identifies with masculinity.
In 2019, I got top surgery. I started testosterone. And my life changed. I finally was able to look in the mirror and identify who that was, and that's the biggest thing.
But as a transgender person, Polito says he's experienced discrimination at every turn, especially while traveling and going through TSA checkpoints.
TSA is a very interesting place, especially as a trans person. I always get checked going through TSA. I always have to get personally scanned or personally felt up. And it can be a very embarrassing and also a very intimate process. that doesn't really need to happen.
The TSA announced new screening standards back in March, like enhancing technology and limiting pat-downs for transgender airline passengers. The agency says the changes, quote, advance civil rights and improve the customer experience of travelers who previously have been required to undergo additional screenings due to alarms in sensitive areas, end quote.
There have been multiple instances where my safety has been an issue.
Polito says he's faced discrimination at public restrooms too.
If people are either clocking you as not conforming to either of their understandings of gender, it's immediately a safety issue.
In California, business establishments, nonprofits, and government agencies cannot discriminate based on someone's gender identity or gender expression, including using a public restroom.
Systematically, we're not set up for success here.
The Center for American Progress says more than 3 in 5 transgender people in the U.S. faced some kind of discrimination in 2020. New research by the National LGBTQ Task Force shows Black transgender people experience the highest levels of discrimination compared to other trans groups. That results in higher rates of unemployment, homelessness, and poverty.
Right now is a particularly difficult time for the transgender community.
The nonprofit GLAD is encouraging people to recognize Transgender Awareness Week in November to protect trans rights.
We're seeing hundreds of bills introduced in legislatures across the country attempting to ban life-saving healthcare from trans children, excluding them from sports participation, essentially trying to erase and eradicate trans people from public life.
Transgender people have historically been a marginalized group.
The LGBT Community Center says Trans Awareness Week is also a time to remember victims of anti-trans hate and violence.
Every human being should have a chance to thrive and really have a great life. And I think anything that we can do to support those who are targeted for victims of violence is a really powerful act.
My story is personally more of a success story compared to a lot of the community that I have worked so hard to fight for. You rely on the hope that eventually things will get better.
And as a country, we still don't have enough data when it comes to understanding the lives and experiences of transgender people and the issues they face. And right now, the U.S. Transgender Survey is hoping to fill those gaps with research to help leaders better advocate for the transgender community. So if you are a trans or non-binary person 16 or older, you can take the survey up until December 5th. You can find it on abc10.com/to-the-point. All right, a debate is underway right now in Citrus Heights. Should a middle school that serves hundreds of students be moved? These are renderings of what Katherine Johnson Middle School could look like if it is moved from its current location at Encina Preparatory High School to a location along Kent Drive near Creekside Park. The San Juan Unified School Board voted unanimously last night to keep moving forward with their plan. But one parent tells ABC 10 she wishes there was more time to look for other options.
Any other location even being discussed? Or I'd love to see if the county could maybe improve the streets, sidewalks, crosswalks, anything to make the students safe in getting here.
Even though the middle school would be moved just a couple of miles away, it could make the travel to school more difficult. Boundary lines would also change, and there is still a lot to discuss about the project, and this is one we will be following. All right, you might have already heard this Thanksgiving might be the busiest travel that we have seen in quite a while because AAA estimates more than 50 million Americans will be driving and flying next week. And with all those people driving and flying, there's bound to be just a few hiccups. And recently, we've told you about parking problems at Sacramento International Airport, but they are taking some small steps to making airport arrival just a little bit easier. So take a look at this. They've added these parking spaces specifically for Lyft drivers to wait near the terminal. It's part of the feature called Rematch, which pairs drivers with riders more quickly after dropping their last ride off. And to make sure that you can travel a little easier too, you can check the airport's website for available parking spaces before you even leave home. And that'll help you know which parking lot to head to and how much earlier you need to leave to get there on time. But if you can get a ride, get a ride. That just might be your best option.
Another way to the airport, either, with a ride share or a taxi, a friend or a family member, because that's going to be, even less stress for you to have to worry about when you're traveling. We can just drop you off at the terminal and you're on your way.
So easy. And if you haven't locked down your travel plans for next week yet, the days you want to avoid are the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and then the Saturday and, of course, Sunday after. If you have the luxury, try to take a few extra days off work to avoid all the holiday delays and save yourself a really big headache. All right. It is the season for giving right now, and thousands of families, children, and seniors and other members of our community do not know where their next meal is coming from. And you can help families in need this holiday season by joining with ABC 10 for the 3rd annual Stand Against Hunger campaign. The ABC 10 crew was at the YOLO Food Bank in Woodland yesterday, and we bagged up a lot of food. We served hundreds of folks who had lined up in their cars for hours. I was there with Walt Gray, Marcus Allen, Luke Cleary, and we were serving up some fresh vegetables, fruits that were provided by area businesses and farms. And it was just a really, really great day for us to meet so many folks who live in YOLO County who were just thankful to get some fresh food on their table. And the Stand Against Hunger campaign goes through December 18th. For a list of participating food banks and how you can help, all you have to do is just text the word hunger to 916-321-3310. And we recently heard from a viewer who wanted to volunteer at the food bank in Oak Park, but heard that it was closed. So we decided to reach out. The Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services on 3rd Avenue is still open, but they are focusing on other services at the moment. So that location is not taking volunteers, but you can sign up to volunteer at other locations. We have that link up right now at abc10.com/tothepoint. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our Gilmore backyard here. Still seeing those cool temperatures. You already know. Make sure you're staying bundled up so you don't get sick. Sacramento seeing 51, Modesto at 48, Marysville 52, Tahoe seeing 29. And here's a look at your 10-day forecast. Well, you can be the owner of some of American icon and Sacramento native Joan Didion's possessions. The famous writer died last December after a battle with Parkinson's disease. And starting today, items from her New York apartment went up for auction. Bria Love explains.
Major publisher Penguin Random House says Joan Didion was one of the country's most astute writers, and her works are considered modern classics.
We tend to idealize artists and writers, musicians, fine artists whose work, really means something to us. The idea of being able to see and possibly own something that belonged to that person is special to people.
Her estate is honoring her life by giving her fans the opportunity to care for her possessions. In the auction, you will find art that hung in her home, furniture, personal books, and among them the typewriter she used and the sunglasses she wore.
We chose things in the apartment so that each item had some kind of meaning and was part of telling the story of who she was, how she lived, and what her personal space was like.
Money from the auction will go to the Sacramento Historical Society to help with scholarship money for women writers and Columbia University for Parkinson's disease research and patient care. All right, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. I want to hear what's going on in your world, and there are a million ways to reach out to me and the team. We have Instagram, Facebook, or of course, you can always send us an email at tothepoint@abc10.com. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you right here tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.